It was at the 1800s. Okay, and the system was introduced by Napoleon, the state banking system in France, and the bank was named as Banque de France, which was introduced on 1806. And 3 years ago something happened, which was on 1803. As an act of parliament, Napoleon abolished the right of two rival banks in order to issue the banknotes. So he abolished the right to issue banknotes. So the only one who issued the banknotes is Banque de France. So he made sure the creation and distribution was only in his hands. And by abolishing that, he remarked something, that is, I'll read out the exact words. Have you not told me that in order to preserve credit, it is a general practice that an artificial money, like that of the Bank of France, shall issue only from one source? I adopt that idea. A single bank can be watched than several concerns, both by the government and the public, with the view of emergencies, that I cannot see any virtue in competition of this kind. So he made sure that, or he thought that, it is actually pretty easy to control one bank for one government than controlling so many banks with the same rules, same system, and all those stuffs. It is pretty hard to control, to engage in each one of them and put rules for each one of them and all those things. So the easy method and the most beneficial method. On 1806 the bank was established, and the establishment really cost the Jewish people, the actual Jews who were up against the Jewish Revolution, against French people commonly. He actually made sure the Banque de France is going to be something very special and the most useful thing for the people. So he launched the bank as a joint stock company. So on 1806 the bank was actually established. So the bank was actually established in the name of a joint stock company, as a joint stock company, where it it was set up with a share capital of 30 million francs, and it was divided into 30,000 shares with 1,000 francs, and most of the shares were subscribed by the Napoleon's family members and people who encouraged him. And coming to the management section, it consisted of 200 people. Out of 200 people, 15 of them were the directors, and 3 of them were the inspectors, means they were the supervising people and all those stuffs, and 3 of them were the central committee members, and one became the chairman, and Napoleon himself declared him as the president of the bank. And he actually said this to shareholders, that the bank does not belong to the shareholders only, it also belongs to the state. Since the shareholders has entrusted to it the privilege of issuing money, I wish the bank to be in sufficient measure in hands of the state, but not too much. So his actual aim was to make the bank and his own people sufficient with money and resources. So in order to increase the wealth and for a better management, he replaced 3 members of central committee with a governor and 2 deputy governors, which actually increased the bank capital to 90 million. So now for real, England is really angry, because so now the England people are very angry because France does not practice usury, and France and Russia, who was the only countries which doesn't practice usury, no usurers was there. So that made England very angry, and England was up against to go an actual war against France, but they had second thoughts because they were Jews. So they planned to do some complicated things. They, did something with the banks. They called upon Spain, Russia, Australia, and one more country. I'll put it in the description. You can read it out. So they did something like to go to war and all those stuffs, and that actually made Napoleon run through all those countries and go out of money. And at that point, the Rothschilds actually came to his way as a help with some millions of pounds, and he actually received it. And Rothschild convinced Napoleon it is actually safe to live or go to England than staying in France. So Napoleon is actually in England right now, and at some point at a some few years after, Napoleon was found dead in a suspicious circumstances. So it was very suspicious because even at the age of 51, he was very strong. He was very strong by his health, mentally and physically and mentally. It is very, very, very suspicious. So by checking his body, they found that cyanide was present inside him. So they actually concluded that he poisoned himself and killed. And it was not a murder. But if you have a right brain with some good nervous system inside your head, if you're blessed by God and you have the ability to think, you can know that it was an actual conspiracy and assassination. Because when you walk back to history, you can see the same scenarios, same way, the same method they've been using against the good warriors who were up against ruling the people the right way, the way they want to, and which was, the actual freedom. So they came into the way, they made plans to assassinate him. You can just, think with your brain and understand this. Seriously planned conspiracies, seriously planned assassinations, which, they were good rulers. It is actually ruling for the people's favor, which is actually on developing the country and now actually having a good life. So these people were assassinated, and as always, I say at the end of my video, I need you to understand what is going on in what is going on today. What is the control system? What is the matrix? What do we call? I see too many antarctic videos, and he's a good man. He spits some truths. He says he have actually seen those people. I don't know, maybe, but I believe there are some actual people. It's not the government. It's not the the corporate companies. Nothing. There are people above them. There are people who control them, and those people doesn't know that they are in control of them. It's a complicated system, which I'll discuss afterwards. So stay hot.